Welcome to this week's Speechy TV. This week I'd like to talk to you about pre-intentional communication and the things that you can look for in your child to see if they're communicating at this level. Last week we went over the 3 different stages of intentional communication. Pre-intentional, which we all come into the world as pre-intentional communicators. That's not intentionally communicating or communicating by accident. Intentional communication or early intentional communication, where we're starting to understand that we need another person involved for communication to be successful, and symbolic communication, which is where children start to understand that words and pictures stand for or mean something else. So this week we're talking about pre-intentional communication. So all babies are born as pre-intentional communicators. They don't yet understand that there needs to be a communication partner, a parent or another person there to interpret what they're saying and help them with what they need. So babies will cry when they have an internal state that is upsetting to them, or they might smile if they have an internal state that's really happy for them. So they'll cry if their bum's wet, they'll cry if they're hungry, they cry if they're tired, they cry if they're hurting, they'll cry for a whole stack of reasons. And as the communication partner, or as their parent, you need to figure out what it is. And when you're first getting to know your child, it's really just a matter of let's just try everything. Are they wet? No. Have they eaten recently? Is it time for a feed? Is it when did they last sleep? Oh, they haven't slept for a while. So it's really hard work figuring out what that is wrong. And you'll find that they cry whether or not you're in the room. The response won't change. So they could be crying, you walk out, and there's no change in the way that they cry. You'll find that as they get older and understand that there needs to be somebody hearing them cry, that you might see a change in pitch when you leave the room, because they've understood you're not listening, you're not hearing them, you're not listening to them. So they need to do something to change the way that they cry. So some things that you might see with your child. Now this can be quite difficult to work out if your child is quite independent, and if they're able to get themselves around and do things for themselves. It can be hard to realise whether or not they're pre-intentional or intentional. So here's a few things that you can look out for in your child to see where they're at. Now, the real key to this is that they understand that another person has to be involved. So you're going to see at an early stage, they might look at something that they want and then look at you. Look at something you want and look at you to see if you're noticing what they want. So they've understood that somebody needs to see what it is they're looking at and that they want it, they're looking at it, to know that they want it. So that can be a really good clue if they're looking for you. And you'll see if they go to pick up something that's something off the ground, and they might look at you to check in to see if it's okay. So if you screw up your face and go, ugh, yuck, don't put that in your mouth, and they put it back down, or walk away, or look at you with a cheeky smile and pick it up anyway, that's a communication. So they've understood that they're communicating with another person about something that's going on. So it doesn't mean that they do the right thing because of it, but it's that they've understood that there's 2 people involved in the communication. Another thing you might see is they might bang their cup or bang something to get your attention, and they'll stop when you look at them. So that's another clue that they might have understood that they need somebody else to help them with what they want. Now, if your child is independent and is able to go and get things independently without getting your help, it can be a lot harder to work this out. Another thing they might do is they might take your hand to help you do something, help them do something. So that's really clear about what they want, because they're moving your hand to what it is they want you to do. Maybe it's to take a lid off or to help them with something. If your child is fairly independent and can get around and do things on their own, you can set up a couple of little tests to see what they do when they're presented with a challenge where they actually do need help. So One thing could be to put something that they really like in a jar with a screw top lid that they can't undo themselves, and so have that where they can get to it, but they might need your help to get into it. So that can be a really good way of doing a little test for your kid when your child is really independent, to make things a little bit harder, so you're forcing them to ask for your help. And that's a really great communication strategy as well, to give them something that they need help with so that you can start a communication interaction about it. So, pre-intentional communication this week. Where's your child at? Can you see your child in the descriptions that I've given you today? Have a look over the next week and see where they are, how they're responding. The first thing, if your child is at this stage, is to understand the way that they are, the way that their behaviour reflects what it is they want, so that we're able to respond to that consistently. Next week I'll talk about some of the strategies that you can use to help them with their communication at a pre-intentional stage and help them develop the skills so they can develop more skills and maybe move to a more advanced communication stage. I'd love to hear where your child is at, so please leave a comment for me down below, just to say hi or let me know where your child is. I love hearing your comments, and I'll come back and I'll reply and answer and say hello back. And if you know somebody that could benefit from watching this video, please hit share, put it on your Facebook page, send them an email, so that they can get the benefit of this video as well, and if their child is at a pre-intentional communication stage. I'll talk to you soon.